Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show. Joining us, as always, the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com, Andrew Malcolm at AHMalcolm. You can find him on Twitter at AHMalcolm, but also, he's got actually 3 things this week. He's got one of his lovely memories series up there. It's a tribute to his father. Be sure to check that out. That's in the clear, by the way. You don't have to be
That's right.
a VIP member. Yeah, so the whole memories thing is a great series over there, and I know that Jen Van Laar really wanted you to be telling some stories, and
Yeah. Well, I told her a couple offline one day, and she said, you should write these. And now I think we're up to number 40 or 41. And a bunch of them have to do with my dad. And I got a comment on this week's on my father. I got a comment. The guy said, "Now I've read every one of them." So
oh,
that guy deserves a medal.
yeah. By the way, happy Father's Day, belatedly to you.
Sam, thank you very much. Same to
Yeah.
everybody here.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to everybody. This will be going up on Tuesday, but happy Father's Day to y'all, and I hope that you had a good time. I was having a good time right up until my brand new used lens just decided to die on me.
Oh, I saw you commenting on that. Well,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
how does a lens stop working? It's just there.
Well, no, because it connects to your digital single lens reflex cameras, and they talk to each other, right?
Oh,
So when they stop talking to each other, you can't even use this thing as a dumb lens, right? Just something that you have to adjust the focus manually or something. No. It just stops. It just doesn't work.
That's the problem. The problem with tech. Yeah,
I've never had that happen to me before. I've never seen this error code. I mean, it was kind of funny, right? I'm in the backyard and I'm playing with it because I want to learn a few things about how to use it because I want to use it. I wanted to use it for a couple different things in the next couple of weeks, and so I'm learning. What's the right mode for it? What's the right shutter speed for the focal length and all this kind of technical stuff I'm learning. And I went back in and out a couple times to check the pictures that I'd taken, and out there, and I maybe taking 6 more pictures on my next turn out there, and all of a sudden I can't even see anything. Right? You look through the lens finder and it's black because it stopped communicating and it just died. Now
so
I got
it's
this on.
not just open to what it's out there.
No, just the camera won't work. If it can't talk to the
Oh.
lens, it just simply won't work. If it's a smart lens, I can put dumb lenses on this camera, but if it makes contact with the contacts on the lens, then it assumes it's a smart lens. And if it's
Oh.
not getting an answer back, it just shuts down. And I
Oh.
got this on eBay, and I have to say that the seller was really good about this. He's going to give me my money back because I've only had it for about less than 2 weeks. And it's one of these things that failed, that there's absolutely no sign that it's going to do it. It's working great. This particular thing works great until it just suddenly doesn't. And then after that, it's just dead. You can't use it for anything.
You can't repair it.
No, and this lens is obsolete, has been obsoleted by Canon. It's a great lens. It was a great lens. In fact, it was a real favorite for journalists and photojournalists because it's very versatile. And it was rugged, but at this point in time, it would cost me more to get the lens fixed than it was probably worth in the first place. It was a really nice lens. It's a real shame. But the guy was
You must have a terrible backyard for it to short out.
well. You know what the problem was? I turned it around to take a picture of my face, and suddenly it just died. I don't know, Andrew.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anyway,
that was what I was doing on Father's
moving
Day. It
on to
was
less important things.
moving on to less important things. Go check out Andrew's Father's Day post. Definitely. I want to talk about some of the other stuff that you've done, though. We got to talk about this Obama Presidential Center, don't we? Have you ever seen anything as
ugly?
ugly?
No.
I mean, I'm not a fan of brutalist architecture. Brutalist looks positively Baroque next to this thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
What
know.
is that? It's like the
I,
Death
I
Star.
well, I said to my eyes, it was a Klingon penitentiary, but uh, it, you can't explain what it is. I see one guy on Twitter put it up next to a picture of one of those from Star Wars, that big machine that moved through recycling with all the little critters.
Yeah, yeah, with the little feet on it. That's what it looks like on Tatooine, right? I mean, that's kind of what it
Yeah,
looks like. Uh,
yeah. I don't know what went through his mind when he approved it. There must be a shrink could come up with a really good reason. It's connected to him and his what's the word? His insecurities in some way. But boy, it's is virtually window free. $30. You need an ID, um, and it's not really interactive.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Did you see the picture of the ceiling, by the way?
No.
So inside, this is inside. It's just as ugly inside, I guess. There's the ceiling, and it's an odd shaped ceiling. It's got a peak in it. And at the peak is this golden square. I don't know what I don't even know what that is supposed to be, but there's this like gold square at the very peak. But around it, it looks like this sort of black or grayish cloud, right? And it turns out that these are all the words that were ever used in an Obama speech. I am not kidding. I'm not joking about this. It's
Oh my
been
goodness.
remarked on. It's the picture of this is going around on Twitter. It looks like it looks like mold. It looks like mold got into there. I don't know whose idea this was. I'm sure that conceptually people are going, oh yeah, this is a word cloud. We'll put a word cloud on the ceiling. And word clouds are things. I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're analytical devices and stuff like that. And they said, well, we'll do a word cloud and it will be, very, edgy, I guess, or very hip. I don't know. It looks like mold is growing on the ceiling. It looks like they need to bring in um, a
Cleaners. Yeah.
specialist to clean this thing up. I'm sure that, and of course, I'm looking at this based on the picture. I'm sure if you're in there, you can look up and understand that this is words, but this looks ugly.
So what
The
you're
whole thing
saying
is
is that
ugly.
you're saying this really isn't the Sistine Chapel.
No, this is not the Sistine Chapel. Although if it was the Sistine Chapel, if Barack Obama, I mean, based on what this has all been about, and to a certain extent, all presidential libraries are about narcissism, right? But this is, I think, especially so. If there was a Sistine Chapel, ceiling paint thing, you'd have Obama's finger on both
Yes.
sides.
Yeah. Going there. Oh, oh boy.
But
Yeah. Well, he's much taken with his words. Um, my favorite Obama speech was in the '08 campaign when he announced that he'd been to 57 of the 58 states. And
yeah,
that's what happens when you're raised in a Muslim household in Jakarta, I guess. But he's so taken with this. My favorite campaign thing, and I think this was 2012. He was speaking at an open air place in Roanoke, Virginia, and it was a brutally hot day. He was up like on the parapet of a city hall, and the crowd was thousands of people all over the square. And as he's droning on, um, he realized that people were fainting in the heat. So, of course, being as thoughtful as Obama was about other people, he pointed out that there were medics in the crowd, and he started to tell people how to stand in the heat without fainting. Don't lock your knees,
Yeah.
and so forth. Instead of saying, "Okay, folks, look, I'll put this on YouTube. You guys go get some air conditioning." No, he pointed out, and he started pointing out to the medics where people were fainting, and then he went on for the second half of his speech to give it, and that's how full of himself he is. I was gonna
Yeah.
I was gonna say was, but no. So I could understand a word cloud that nobody else could understand.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even that nobody can understand it. It's just that it's ugly. I mean, there's it just it's just I don't know. It's like, didn't anybody take a look at this? Did no one step back and say, this may not look good. This may not
Yeah.
work.
And especially in a city that invented the skyscraper and the elevator, with a skyline, a lakefront skyline that is as beautiful and dramatic as Chicago's. And there is this thing plopped down on the south side. But the good news, Ed, is that it's not far from the historical marker, uh, marking for all time and in eternity. It's a 3,000-pound boulder with a plaque on it, marking for all time the place where Obama first kissed Michelle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and he said she tasted like chocolate
Did he
because
really
they
say
took,
that?
yeah, because they were outside of Baskin Robbins. That was their first date. So yeah,
Okay. All right. Okay. I guess I don't.
and the ugly thing now costs what, 837 million instead of the original 300, and they still haven't put the money in place, uh, backup for when it goes bankrupt, so the city doesn't have to pay bailout money.
I mean, that's astounding to me. You know how much Valerie Jarrett gets paid
Yes, $750,000
a year to run the
and
foundation.
there's something going on there. She's the one. She as soon as she was working in, I think it was City Hall, she sort of adopted Obama and shepherded him around when he came to Chicago, introduced him to all the blacks, key elite people in the city, and so on. And he's glommed onto her. When he left the White House, he bought the mansion that the spokesman for the NFL sold. Anyway, Valerie moved in with him for years. So, she was born in Iran, so she may have had a tough childhood.
Well, I'm sure she probably did, but I mean, that doesn't mean she should get $750,000 running an outfit that can't even fulfill its funding. And they're stiffing contractors left and right. I mean, there was
Yeah,
contractors have been on the television saying, I haven't been paid. They're doing this big opening ceremony and I haven't even been paid yet.
yeah.
And the work's been finished for months. These people are going to go out of business. They're going to lose their businesses because they can't get the money out. And what's going to wind up happening is the state of Illinois is going to end up having to bail it out, which is what the fund was supposed to be
Yeah,
created in the first place.
but they haven't put the 400 million, or the, was it 470s, and they've only put a million in, so they're 469 million in the hole there.
Yeah.
But it's like Obamacare. You can keep your doctor and health plan if you want it. It's Obama. He says he had never had any scandal. Well, let's start with Benghazi, and then there's Solyndra. It's just,
Yeah.
the guy
Yeah.
is a piece of work. He was elected. Remember the poster in 2008, the Hope poster?
Yep.
It was actually the photographer, the artist got taken to court because it was copying an AP photo of Obama sort of staring at the skies. He
Yep.
was actually, yeah, he was actually at a George Clooney speech about Sudan.
Oh,
and an AP photographer took a picture of him. So that became the Hope poster, and it was all about hope, right? Si se puede. Yeah, and hope. Yeah. Well, he wrote that, and a lot of people, a lot of
yeah.
Americans, elected their first uh, black president with hope, right? And within a few months, the guy went on a global apology tour, apologizing for the country that just placed their hopes and trust in him as the first black president. The, the stuff he did, besides going AWOL during Benghazi, that stuff is just unforgivable in my mind. So I'm not surprised he has an ugly building. I think there's a subconscious thing going on there because he was sometimes described himself. Um, I've forgotten the word. He was a mutt because he was biracial. He described himself in some speeches as a it was maybe it was a mutt. Anyway, it was a mixture of races, as if that wasn't good, and sort of self trying to be self-deprecating. Anyway, boy,
Yep. Yeah.
I do not miss that crowd.
Well, I don't miss that crowd either. And I think the worst part of that crowd was what happened with Joe Biden at the end of that
Oh,
event thing where they left him on stage. Jill Biden left him on stage so she could walk off with Barack Obama and waving her hands as if she is, the main supporting character in that thing. Left Joe on stage to wander around, go up to the microphone, go, "Where's my granddaughter? Where's my granddaughter?" And nobody's there. And finally, he starts wandering off to the other side, and that's when I think Jill Biden came out and got him. But this is all captured on TV, and whoever was operating the camera knew that this was not a good scene because as soon as he got to the podium and said, "Where's my granddaughter?" and started wandering off to the other side, they moved the shot up to the
yeah,
banner above it and made sure that that was the end of that. But
yeah. He did a
you
lot of
know,
wandering, and Obama's the one who stuck us with him, even though
yeah.
in 2016 he wanted to pay back Hillary, so he told Joe that it wasn't necessary to run. Um,
Well, yeah. I mean, and then they were all behind him in 2020 and 2024 until that debate. And I mean,
because
Obama had to,
they knew they could manipulate him. Yeah,
they were running him. That was Obama's third term.
yeah.
He had his team in there. It was Obama's third term. He was just the the
The
patsy, I
statue.
guess, who
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
and but I don't care. I mean, I care about that stuff, and there should be accountability for that. Everybody who was involved in that should be in prison, as far as I'm concerned. But what was really, I think, just really disgusting about what happened there was the fact that they left a senile old man to wander around on stage, and even his wife didn't give enough of a damn to make sure that,
yeah.
to make him look, to maintain his dignity until he got off the stage.
No,
Obama,
I
yeah,
wrote that column a couple of weeks ago. It's elder abuse, and
yeah,
there's no consequences for that either.
nope, there hasn't
No,
been. All right.
no.
I want to move on to your other column. The topic of your other column, the Iran war was right, the end deal, not so much. I've kind of gone through the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of, I don't know what you'd call it with this MOU: anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I may be somewhere around acceptance at this point in time, or maybe not. I might still be in bargaining. Yeah, you know what
Yeah,
that is, right? The Elizabeth
yeah.
Kubler-Ross
No,
five
I
stages.
do. That's why I was laughing. It's so
Yeah.
apt. Five
And
stages of grieving.
the 5 stages of grief. Um, and you know how I learned about that?
No,
Hand to God, I learned about that from the movie All That Jazz, because they keep referring to it through All That Jazz. Cliff Gorman plays a guy who's a stand-up comic who keeps making reference to it,
oh,
because All That Jazz is about death. This was Bob Fosse's concept of his own death eventually,
oh,
and it's a great movie. I love All That Jazz, but it's not a cheerful movie. It just
yeah.
isn't. Um, And but that's how I learned about the Kubler-Ross thing. And I went and looked it up later on in life, and I was like, oh, this is real. So the MOU, um, I'm absolutely stunned that we're back down to what looks to be a JCPOA-ish sort of framework to
Yeah.
negotiate an eventual end to hostilities. I will say this, though, and I think that in my initial um, depression, I guess, I'm not sure, anger and denial or whatever it was, whatever stage I happen to be in, um, the situation is different. We've sunk their entire navy. We have destroyed most of their air force. They just simply started burying the planes at some point because they have they have a very old air force, and there's no way it was going to stand up either against us or the Israelis. Their army's intact because their army wasn't really involved in this, but we've destroyed all that. We've destroyed a substantial amount of their infrastructure, and it was targeted. It was strategic. We not only killed their military infrastructure, we killed the infrastructure that supported the military infrastructure, and to a certain level got down to a third level on that. It's going to take them years just to build up the infrastructure so they can rebuild the main military infrastructure. So there's wins that have come out of this. And I am not necessarily convinced that anybody at the White House actually expects this to succeed, because I'm not sure how you can expect it to
No,
succeed.
you can't. No, no.
I'm
These
wondering if
guys
this
are
is just a play out the string and get back to doing what we were doing before, or if they're just simply looking to say, well, we gave it a good college try. We're just going to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and let the region take care of itself.
yeah. Well, I think it's a mess, and we're. I don't. Yes, you're right about destroying the equipment, but they refuse to accept it, and they're just stalling. The only thing they have left is the streets, and string this out so it hurts Trump in the midterms. That's all it is. And I'm surprised. I was surprised when Putin played Trump out in Ukraine. He still is. And I'm surprised that Trump let this go this far. He's always said in his book and in life, the most important thing in making a deal is the willingness to walk away. And he's not been willing to walk away. And that tells me that he wants it more than, and they know it. He wants it more than they care about, so they can play it. I don't. It pretty much. Well, first of all, the war is unpopular. It never was popular because it went on too long. Grenada, you can get away with. Panama, you can get away with, but not one that goes on a long time with anyone who was alive during Vietnam and Afghanistan. And so I'm surprised he didn't just cut it and get it over with. Either bomb some more. I guess that's the only alternative. But he's not. He's stretching it out. He's agreeing to them stretching it out in effect, de facto. And I think a lot of people who are his supporters think, wait a minute. They look back, and this is what I did in the column on Sunday. They look back at what he said at the beginning: regime change, not and no control of the Straits of Hormuz, never get a nuclear weapons. Well, never. That's going too far. But set them back a couple decades, yeah, okay, you can do that, and he did that. So I don't know why we're so hung up on getting them to agree to something. They never will. They'll stretch it out. It was less than 24 hours before, after signing the paper, that they announced that the straits were closed again, and that was a key part of the agreement. Now, they aren't closed. They're just trying to play the insurance companies, I guess. But uh, you can't make a deal with these guys. You just can't. They don't want, they don't want a deal. That's the way they win.
Yeah, no, I mean, and they'll stall it out. They'll do what they're doing right now, which is what I call the Tehran two-step, which is to have to talk peace while they're having their proxies start, try to provoke Israel into firing at them, so they have an excuse to bail out of the talks. That's the Tehran two-step. This is what I used to call it, the Hamas hokey pokey, right? Which was
Yeah,
that you get to you go into talks, and this is the pattern, the modus operandi. You go into talks, you get the Western countries to agree to a certain set of concessions, and then you do something and change the terms.
yeah, yeah,
And you keep doing this and so that you can work out more concessions, because you're always, well, we're almost there, but now we need something more. And then there's a lot
yeah,
of pressure on Israel or the US or whoever is on the other side of the table to just offer them a few more concessions, and we'll
yeah,
get
yeah.
there. And
Remember
that's
how
what this
long it
is.
took to get the original Obama thing? They kept getting more and more, and they ended up getting a whole bunch of money. You're absolutely right. The two-step, that's maybe a three or four-step. That's a that's
Yeah.
another one of the isms.
Well, you know, I chose two-step just because it's a dance, right? I mean, you can just call it the three-step,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
10-step, the Tehran 10-step, if you want to call it that too. But basically, this is it's theater is what it is. They're not interested in actually doing
in any
peace,
kind of agreement. Yeah, right.
right?
So why play? Why agree to it? Why play along? And this is what Trump has always said: walk away. Well, walk away, and then wait for them to do something bad, and then just annihilate them. He said we were going to put them. Remember in his Oval Office speech, he said in the next 2 weeks we're going to put them back. What was it? To the Stone Age. We're going to put them back to the Stone Age where they belong. Okay. Well,
Yep, yep. So,
yeah,
the Iranians are still saying today that the Strait of Hormuz will be open only under Iranian terms and under Iranian management, and Trump has said absolutely not. This, to me, it looks like a framework for failure.
yeah.
Mostly because Iran is never going to stop. They're never going to stop. These
Never,
are
never,
terrorists. They're
ever.
not. Yeah, this is not a situation where you've got, Pakistan and India. There's a lot of grudge holding between Pakistan and India, but they're both rational governments that are mainly interested in maintaining their own sovereignty and maintaining, their
Right.
commercial and diplomatic things. The Iranian regime is something else. It's a different sort of thing. They're interested in creating an apocalypse so that their 12th
Okay.
imam will come out of the mountain. Um, and that's
Well,
that's what they're aiming at. That's everything they do is aiming at that.
well, one of the things I mentioned in the column, which I hope people will check out, is um, we got through the Cold War with MAD, mutually assured destruction. That is,
Right.
if Russia or us, if the Soviet Union or us started a war, everybody would die, not just the enemy. And so everybody held off because they knew the end was nigh. These guys, they don't mind the end. I guess they get 72 virgins, but they get to go to the good place if they die. And so if you're negotiating with martyrs, that kind of takes away your leverage, I think.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. By the
Oh,
way, I just have to work in this thing. One last thing about the Obama Presidential Center. Kurt Schlichter said it looked like a monument to Peyronie's disease. Uh, it's a great line. Just really quickly, though, before we get to the jokes of the week, the thing about presidential libraries is they're all narcissistic, and it's a fairly recent phenomenon, and relatively recent in the American experience. I think FDR was maybe the first president that had his own presidential library, and then every other president after that has kind of followed suit. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Welcome to Mooseport,
No.
but
Oh, is that with
Gene
Gene Hackman?
Hackman
Yeah,
the
Ray
guy from
Romano.
Everybody Loves Raymond, Ray Romano, right? And
Yeah,
there's this little subplot through there that Gene Hackman is like the most popular president ever to exit the White House. Everybody loves him. He's getting tons of money for his presidential library. Then gets caught up in this stupid political thing in this town while he's divorcing his wife. And it's really a funny movie. People, I think it
yeah,
was
it
Gene
is. It
Hackman's
is.
last movie. It's really kind of cute and it's funny. Didn't get good reviews, but I actually enjoyed it. And the whole thing is, as the movie is going along, they keep having to take the little buildings out of the model because he doesn't have the money to. It ends up being one building.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's
Yeah.
it's this like this whole, it's like 9 buildings and it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. They keep having to tell the architect, well, we need to take a couple more out. And the architect is like in tears over this.
Well,
Um,
the thing about presidential libraries that I haven't minded them until now because there was a point to them, right? A research point. If you go to the Reagan one, you can see actually videos and you can read further into documents about what actually happened. Um, uh, they had Air Force One there. There's a reason for it that has to do with history, which I think is important. Obama's is kind of an ugly salute to himself. It's like
well, I mean, they
I was
kind of
here, and
are,
I was
aren't they
here, and
kind of
this is
all?
the ugly thing I left behind.
I mean, it's the ugliness, I think, that is the most notable thing about this. I mean, there are apparently plans for Trump's presidential library, which is going to be a skyscraper.
Yeah,
It's going to be very Trumpian. So I don't want to necessarily just lay this off on Barack Obama. I think that they all tend to be this. The National Archives was what was supposed to serve in that role, right? Was that
yeah.
president gave
That's
their
not
papers?
enough, Ed. That's not enough. We have to have an architectural salute to elegance and
I
grace and
guess.
grandeur.
I
Yeah,
guess.
National Archives. That's not grand. Come on. It's
you know, I'm gonna create my own presidential archives, and you know what it's going to be? It's going to
no.
be a Five Guys or an In and Out. It'll be an In and Out. It'll be an In and Out. You want a double double? You want a 4x4? That's what it's going to be like. I think that if I had a presidential library, it'd look like an In and Out.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
but
great idea. Or
I think that's
Bucky's. It just all it
a
is
Bucky's. Yeah, make
yeah,
it a
it's
Bucky's.
Ed's
You're absolutely
presidential
right.
library. Ed's presidential library is just a place where he can sell his merch.
There's another movie reference I'll make to that: My Fellow Americans with Jack Lemmon and James Garner, which was actually also pretty funny. It's about two presidents that have to hate each other, that have to team up to overcome a government conspiracy, and it's absolutely hilarious. The politics aren't too bad. There is some, there's a little of it, but not too bad. And James Garner and Jack Lemmon are hilarious in this thing. But Jack Lemmon plays this guy who's selling merchandise all the time, and he's a former president who's got, like, speaking dolls of him. Our dreams are like our children.
What's that called?
My Fellow Americans. It's pretty cute. Dan Aykroyd's in it. Uh, John Hurd. I don't want to give away too much. John Hurd has an absolutely hilarious role as the vice president. And there's a line near the end of the movie that is, I swear to you, is Kamala Harris.
Uh,
It was obviously meant to tweak Dan Quayle, but this guy is actually pure Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. You could say either one, and you'd be close to the mark. So yeah, My Fellow Americans. It's actually a funny movie. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely check that out. Lots of jokes in it, and that brings us to the jokes of the week. Andrew, I know that you've got at least one. I've got one for you.
I do too. Just a minute. I have to remember my password. Okay,
Well,
so this is an old Conan O'Brien joke. He said, "Today, the Supreme Court ruled that television networks can show momentary nudity. So, by popular demand, The View is now a radio show."
uh, that still works to this day. That still
Yeah,
works. There you
yeah.
go.
Isn't that
Ro-
great?
Yeah. Rosie O'Donnell's going to be filling in for Jimmy Kimmel, I guess, next week.
Oh,
She's coming
great.
back from Ireland. You got to give Rosie O'Donnell credit. She's the only person, I think Ellen DeGeneres may have been the other one who said that she would move out of. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't even think Ellen DeGeneres was related to the election. Rosie O'Donnell said she'd move out of the United States if Trump got reelected, and she actually did. You got to give her credit for committing to the bit, but she's coming back for a couple of weeks while
Oh,
Kimmel's on
that's great.
vacation.
That's great.
That's lovely. That's not my joke of the week though, because that's not funny,
Oh,
and I'm almost guaranteeing you that show is not going to be funny. But all right, here's the joke. Farmer walks into a bar, and he sees his friend, who's a local tractor salesman, right, sitting at the bar, and he's looking really down. He's got his face almost in the beer at the bar, right? So he sits down next to him. And farmer says, "What's up, John?" And John says, "Look, Bob, I'll tell you what, if I don't sell a tractor soon, I'm going to have to close my shop." And Bob says, "Well, now, John, things could be worse." John says, "How do you figure?" And the farmer goes, "Well, look, you know my cow, Bessie, the one that's really difficult to deal with? I went to milk her this morning. She kept flicking her tail in my face. So I grabbed a piece of rope and I tied it to the rafter. And then the cow got upset. And every time I put the bucket down and kicked the bucket. So I took another piece of rope and I tied it to the leg. Well, she used the other leg to keep kicking the bucket, and I was out of rope. So I took off my belt and I tied that leg down with the belt." He says, "And then my pants fell down." And Bob says, "So?" And or John says, "So?" And Bob says, "Look, I'm telling you that if you can convince my wife that I was just there to milk the cow, I will buy a tractor from you."
I will buy a tractor.
I will
Yeah.
buy a tractor from you. All right. Well, that was jokesoftheday.net. There was another one I had in here, but I think I scrolled past it, which is unfortunate because I think that one was pretty good too. No,
Well,
that's a
we
long
got
one. That's a
next.
Shaggy Dog one.
We got next week.
We got next week. We always have next week. It's sort of like we'll always have Paris.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. We'll always have next week. Well, and you've got some great content from Andrew Malcolm over at redstate.com. Go check out his column, the free column, Malcolm's Memories, The Joy of My Father's Joy. Go check that out. It's a lovely essay. Go read that. And his other two VIP columns as well. But Malcolm's Memories is not paywalled. So everybody can go over there and take a look at that. And we never paywall this podcast either. This is open to everybody because we just enjoy doing it so much. Andrew Malcolm, though, is the prince of Twitter as well as the regent of redstate.com at AHMalcolm on X/Twitter. And we're here every Monday, except for those Mondays when we're not. So, Tuesday.
Well, we should begin selling merch at Get Some Money.
We should. Our
for
dreams
your
are like our children.
Why are we always selling merchandise?
Well, you're not Andy Rooney this week. You're Charles Kuralt.
That's true.
There you go. So I have to be the. What is up with selling merchandise on news shelves? What? Why did we start doing that? Okay, so there you go. My Andy Rooney.
I love that.
All right, Andrew Malcolm. Until next week, have yourself a lovely week, sir.
You too, and thank you, everybody. See you then.